Hey guys, it's Maddie and welcome to the channel. This is actually part 1 of a special 12-part video series I'm doing for you guys to celebrate my 1-year anniversary on HRT. So through October 23rd through October 28th, you guys are getting 2 videos a day, so make sure you check back more often than you normally would to catch the rest of the series. But to start it off, I want to go more into the topic about coming out because it's been something that's been a very big area of, I guess, conversation on my channel the past month or so with all the things that have been happening to me. So I want to go into more detail and share with you guys exactly who I came out to and when, and exactly what my timeline was, because it took me exactly a year. And I think that might be more interesting and helpful to you guys because so many people realize, or not realize, but they think that coming out is just like flipping a switch and you tell everybody and then you're done. But it's not like that in reality. In reality, it's a long, drawn-out, horrible process that takes a long time. And kind of like to share my experience about it with you guys, so here we go. On September 30th of 2016, I came out to my best friend at the time, and I told her that I was trans and about the feelings that I was having. I didn't start hormones till about a month later on October 25th. But I came out to the first person on September 30th. In between then and when I actually started hormones, we actually told 2 more people who worked at the same office that we did, who I was close friends with at the time, and I told them that I was trans and that I was going to start hormones and all these things. So by the time I actually started, 3 people in the entire world knew, and it kind of stayed that way for a while. I didn't tell anybody else until after the first of the year. It was in January when I started telling more people and I started to get more comfortable with it. So about 2 years on hormones, or not 2 years, wow, I can't talk. 2 months on hormones is when I really started to tell people. I told my best friend, Sarah, you guys have met her before, and I told her in January. I told a couple other people that I had been close friends with for quite a while in January as well. January is also when I told the people at Human Resources at my job that I was trans, mostly because they were worried because I'd been so sick lately and they didn't know what was going on. And so I told them in January as well. So I would say by the end of January, there was like 7 people who knew that I was trans by the time I hit my 2-month mark, 2.5-month mark, something like that. I told my mom in March of 2017. So about the 5-month mark is when I told my mom, and I didn't have the courage to do it and tell her like face to face or with words necessarily, like verbally. So I wrote her a letter and I explained to her how I was feeling and everything that was going on with me and that sort of thing. And that's how I did it with my mom. And the next few months were rough. We didn't really talk about it much at all. We kind of just acted like it didn't exist. Just small talk stuff about the weather and those sorts of things. We didn't really start being able to talk about it openly probably until, June, May, end of May, 1st of June, something like that. But I did tell my mom in March. I told my sister, I believe it was in May. I called her on the phone one day after work, and I just proceeded to spill my guts to her. And it went really well. She told me that she was proud of me. And since then, I think the narrative has changed a bit. I've never been very close to my sister to begin with, and so we don't talk a lot. So I really don't know exactly how she feels about the topic. But I did tell her a couple months after my mom in May. Throughout that time, I had told a few more people. I was starting to become more public about it. I started seeing a psychologist. And also, to backtrack a bit, after I told my mom in March, like the week after I told my mom, I told my boss at work. And I explained to him, this is the person I am, and this is how I'm feeling. These are my intentions. And he seemed okay with it. And work got a lot better after I had kind of cleared that air, because I think people were starting to get suspicious anyways. Things like my nails and things like that, they just were too afraid to ask. but I told my boss in March. I just asked him to keep it a secret and not to tell anyone else, like don't spread it around until I have a chance to finish coming out to the rest of the people in the office and who I work with. And I kept it that way for a few months. I didn't tell anyone else in my office building. So anyways, I told my sister a couple months after my mom. And then in June, I went full-time in June. And I had to finish coming out, especially at work. And so I wrote a letter for everyone at work to read. I gave it to the HR department, and I've kind of detailed this experience before, so if you want to know more about it, you can click the link above about what it's like to transition at work. And so anyways, then they had like meetings with the staff and explained to them that I was transgender, and they gave them this letter that I had written to read. And I finished coming out to, like another 50, 60 people, like all in one day, which was all the people at work, just because it had to happen before I showed up, as myself. And so that went fine. I finished coming out to all them, and I went full-time June 23rd. And then I had a cruise, like a family vacation coming up in July, and I wasn't sure how to handle it because nobody on that side of my family knew. It's like extended family, like cousins and stuff. And so I messaged one of my close cousins, who I felt like I could trust, and I told her that I was trans, and I asked what she thought I should do about, like the cruise and stuff that was coming up. And she thought it would be best to wait and to, just not tell anybody, tell a few people on the cruise, and then tell the rest of them afterwards. And so I took her advice and I did that. On the cruise, I think I told like 3 or 4 more people who I was really close with in my family. But the rest of my extended family, I waited probably like 2 or 3 weeks afterwards. And then I sent them like a group message on Facebook, and I just kind of like spilled the beans. They already knew. They were just kind of waiting on me to tell them personally, as it turns out. And so I did. I took care of that. And at that point, my entire extended family knew. This was probably somewhere in early to mid-August. Then in September, I told my grandparents. And it went really well at first. My grandmother was very positive at first. That didn't last long, because a few weeks later she sent me a letter effectively disowning me from our family and from them. And if you want to read more about that, I'll put it up here. But I told them, and at that point, literally everybody in my life who was important to me knew. So all that was left to do was put it on Facebook to, notify all the people I went to high school with and things like that. And so I did that. I did that on September 29th, which was the last day of the year that I started my coming out process. I started September 30th of 2016, and I finished September 29th, 2017. I put it on Facebook, and I told the rest of the world who I was and what I was feeling, and that was it. I was out. Now, obviously, I still run into people sometimes who don't know, and I have to do a little bit of explaining and stuff at those points in time. But for the most part, I would say 99% of the people who I know in my life or who I've kept up with in my life, they know. They know about me. And like I said, it took a year. It was a horrible process. I lost a lot. I gained a lot. Like I lost some family, like my grandparents and people like that. But I gained a lot of really cool friends along the way. People who came out in support for me like I never thought that they would. And I don't know, I just think it's important for people to realize that coming out is a process. It's not something that's going to happen overnight, even if you do just stick it on Facebook. That's not going to be the end of it. And that's just something you have to deal with. Like I said, it took me an entire year. And it was the best year of my life, but it was the worst year of my life for that exact same reason. And I don't know, let me know what you guys think, what your process for coming out looked like. Put it in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear from you. And like I said, this is just the first video in this week's 12-part series, so make sure you tune back in tonight and the rest of this week to see the rest of these videos. I'd love to have you join our family, so feel free to hit that subscribe button down below. And also, this coming Sunday, October 29th, we're going to cap this whole week of craziness off with more craziness, a 6-hour live stream event from 2 to 8 p.m. Central Time. Feel free to connect with me on Facebook and Twitter. You can send me mail to my P.O. Box at Madison Kate at P.O. Box 6103, Lubbock, Texas 79413, and I'll be happy to open your mail and packages here on camera. And until next time, you guys, be kind and make good choices and watch the rest of my video series. Please, I worked really hard on it.